Hello friends, it is Miss Victoria, and today I am going to talk about one of Robert Frost's most famous poems, Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening. He is well known for his poems about the New England countryside, and this is one of those poems. Before I go into the poem's meaning and its rhyme scheme, I'm going to read the poem for you all. Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. My horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near. Between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. He gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sounds the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep. And miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. There are 4 stanzas to this poem, so I'm going to go stanza by stanza and dissect what just happened. So in the first stanza, it reads, whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village though. He knows where he is, but we don't know who he is, because it's someone's house that he's referring to. Perhaps this is a person that he's just visited and he doesn't want him to know that he's still nearby. Perhaps it's someone that he doesn't really get along with. We don't really know whose house it is. We are left to guess. In the last 2 lines of the first stanza, it says, he will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. So clearly he doesn't want anyone to know that he's there, and he's enjoying this quiet time in the beautiful nature and the scenery of New England. Now let's move on to the next stanza. My horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near. So the horse thinks it's very odd for his rider to be stopping in the middle of the woods. Generally, you don't stop when it's really snowy and cold outside. You stop once you get to a place where you can actually rest. But it's very unusual to stop in the middle of the night, in the middle of the woods while it's snowing, because it's a very dangerous thing to do. If you were to fall asleep in the snow, you could die from hypothermia. Getting way too cold, your body can't handle it. So he kind of sets up this scenery for us again in the last 2 lines of this stanza. He says he's between the woods and the frozen lake. So clearly there's not a whole lot of people that would be around. He's in the middle of the forest. The last line is interesting because he said it's the darkest night of the year. Why would you go out traveling on the darkest night of the year when you can barely see anything? It's becoming more odd and odd. Let's go to the 3rd stanza. He gives his harness bells a shake, meaning the horse, to ask if there is some mistake. The horse is very, very confused about what's going on. This is not usual for the writer to do this. Now the last 2 lines of the 3rd stanza read, the only other sounds the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. So now it's like the woods are almost calling to him. There's a very easy wind. It's very comforting. It's not harsh. And then there's the downy flake, and downy means that it's soft and fluffy, and he's being drawn in by these woods. If you don't know what a siren is in mythology, they were basically mermaids that would call out to sailors. They would sing a very sweet song, something that was attractive to them, but then they would eventually lure them to their death. And that's what this reminds me of, is the woods calling out to this writer. And it almost becomes a little bit creepy because it's a very dangerous setting to be in because he doesn't have anyone to look out for him. The woods very well could be singing this siren song to draw him in. The last stanza reads, the woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep. So he acknowledges that it's beautiful there. He wants to stay there. He doesn't want to leave. But then he kind of breaks out of the trance and he goes, wait, I have responsibilities and obligations outside of these woods. I can't stay here. It also makes the reader wonder who he has promises to. Is it someone that he loves? Or is it a promise to himself that he would keep going? He isn't done with his journey. The last couple of lines read, and miles to go before I sleep, meaning it could be resting. He has miles to go before he can actually rest at an inn and have a place for the horse to sleep as well. Sleeping in the woods while it's snowing is not appropriate because it could be very dangerous. It would be too cold. This could also mean that he has miles to go before he dies. While the woods are very captivating, while the woods are very beautiful, and he's in this trance, he's in this daze that he can't seem to get out of until the last stanza. He realizes, I cannot stay here, I cannot do this because I will end up dying or sleeping. Again, this really does remind me of a siren from mythology, and the woods are the siren in this case, because they are calling him into a very dangerous situation, and he has to use all of his mental power to break away from it. And again, this is my own interpretation. Lots of other people could have different interpretations and be right also. Poetry is meant to be interpreted in many different ways. People argue about it all the time. Many scholars will go back and forth over what a poem means and what the author meant by it. Now, if you noticed, Robert Frost did rhyme several different lines, and this is called a rhyme scheme. Poets use a rhyme scheme because it's almost like a song. Poets want people to remember their work, and when it rhymes and has a rhythm, it's easier for people to memorize. And rhyme scheme can be divided up into letter groups. The group of words that rhyme will be put into group A, B, C, and D. There are 4 different groups of rhyming words in this poem. In the first stanza, we have know, though, and snow on lines 1, 2, and 4. Line 3 does break away from that though. So while know, though, and snow will be in group A, here it starts group B. Group B continues in the second stanza, and we have in lines 5, 6, and 8 queer, near, and year. So all of the rhyming words get grouped together. So now we have group A and group B. On a piece of paper, we would just really write down these letters next to the different lines. And now we have group C. It starts out with lake in the second stanza, then we get to the third stanza and we have shake, mistake, flake. All of those will be grouped into group C. The third line of the third stanza is sweep. And then in the last stanza, all of those words rhyme. So there has been a pattern throughout this whole entire poem. In all 3 of the first stanzas, the third line has this outlier, a word that doesn't rhyme with the rest of the lines in the stanza. The last stanza has deep, keep, sleep, sleep. So that would be group D. The final rhyme scheme will end up looking like this. Again, this is very purposeful because Frost wants people to remember his work. He wants it to stay in their head, kind of like a song, so that people begin to examine its meaning a little bit more, so it stays in their heads longer, so that they share it with others, things of that nature. They want it to sound pleasing to the ear overall. All right, friends, if you have any different interpretations of what the poem might mean, leave it in the comments below, and I would be happy to take a look at what your thoughts are. If you have any questions about the poem, leave those in the comments as well. Again, I will respond. Alrighty, friends, thank you for watching. I will see you in my next video. Bye.